focus my attention on the younger people, because the future of Islam...
Because when it comes to you, everybody's younger.
Assalamu alaikum
Wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh.
My name's Dave Rahim.
My name's Mohammed Yusuf Bashful.
And together we're affectionately known as...
The two white Muslims.
We are joined today by our brother and dear friend, Dr Suhail Anwar.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Very good.
And yes, I'm a consultant surgeon. I don't know whether many people will not know that I'm a consultant surgeon, but alhamdulillah, for the last 5 or 6 years, I've been deviated towards reading Islam.
Alhamdulillah.
With an open mind and obviously with the help of scholars and to understand how we can think about the Islam. So
you say with an open mind, Suhail, which is vastly important, but you've also got a scientific mind.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And that helps enormously in critical evaluation of the things that you're reading. And some of the podcasts that you've done are outstanding.
Yeah.
And I would welcome anybody to go to Let's Ponder.
It's Let's Ponder with Dr Suhail Anwar. That's my YouTube channel.
Yes. Yeah.
So I talk about Quran, science, Quran and modern enlightenment, and Quran and open mind thinking and things like that. So I'm talking, I feel that the Islam has to, we have to study Islam with an open mind.
You know, Junaid, I don't often feel stupid, but when I've got this person in the room...
Wait, say, you don't often? Really?
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 No, I hide it well.
Yeah, sometimes it's harder to hide, shall we say, to be fair.
Depends who we've got in the room. One, we've got a true genius in the room.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And as you were saying, because we watch your podcasts, and then when we get together and have conversations, we keep saying we must do this more often. We've done this before, but we must do this more often because the conversations are fascinating.
Yeah.
I just think the number of times we've had a conversation and we go, should have recorded that.
I wish we'd recorded that. Yes.
So today. We're recording
it.
No, I'm very thankful to both of you that you have invited me, and I'm pretty sure the conversation is handled by you both very nicely.
We're honoured to have you.
And you take me to the directions where you would like me to go.
Inshallah.
And inshallah, we'll have a discussion. It's an open discussion.
Yes.
We can pick up any topic and we can discuss on that.
Well, before we hit the record button, we were talking about the kinds of things that we could speak about this morning. And one of the things that came up was the question of why are people leaving Islam? Why are born Muslims choosing to turn away from this beautiful deen? Why are they turning away from the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and turning away from the example that was set by our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And they're going to live much more secular lives with influences that are... Well, I'm going to say questionable.
Yeah.
Questionable. And, turning away from what is perfect, the deen, turning away from what is perfect, Allah's message, through our perfect example of humanity, the messenger, peace be upon him, is really a backward step.
Yes.
So why are people doing this? And I'm going to try and focus my attention on the younger people, because the future of Islam...
Because when it comes to you, everybody's younger. Sorry, carry on, Yusuf.
I am an old man. I am, yes. And I'm proud of it. But no, the thing is that younger people are. And, if you think about it, the future of Islam is in our younger people.
Future of everything.
I believe that children are the future.
Teach them well and let them lead the way.
You could make a song out of it.
You could almost make a song out of that, couldn't you?
My feeling is that we still have got chance, because if you go to the mosques, you will actually see more than 50% of the crowd. Actually, they are younger than, I would say, 30 years of age. Unlike other religions. I mean, if you go to church, you'll find out older people. And the younger people are almost not there, actually. Maybe one or two young people. And same is the case with other religion as well. So Islam is a religion of young people. But yes, you're absolutely right that slowly these younger people, some of them are older people as well, are drifting away. Their mind doesn't accept many things.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good, it's a very fascinating topic. I must say that I've not prepared myself for this topic, but we'll just
same here.
We'll just go with the
Looking at
flow.
life. Yeah,
And we'll just see how things are. My feeling is that being a doctor and a scientist, and I've got very much deviation towards evolution, studying evolution as well. My feeling is that everything evolves.
Yeah.
Even culture evolves as well.
Yes.
Human evolves, things evolves, generation, everything. Culture, especially if you see culture, it evolves as well. The liking of dislike or disliking maybe 500 years ago is different from liking and disliking of the same thing today.
Oh yes. Yeah.
So it has evolved. So same is the case with our feeling towards anything, towards a country, towards a feeling of anything, or towards a religion. So if the people who are describing the religion, if they are not evolving in their replies, in their description, then the people who wants to listen, they have already evolved with time. And if the reply of the religious questions and answers do not correlate with their mindset, they will start drifting away.
Just to bring this down to simple terms, which is where my mind works. In simple terms, a young child will say, "You're just not speaking my language.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're just not. I don't understand what you're saying. You're
And
so
they're
old
right.
school."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they are right.
Yes.
Yeah,
They're
because their language is different. Their understanding, their evaluation of things around them is completely different to that of the person that's talking to them.
Yeah.
So we've got to kind of start by finding some common ground, haven't we? Yeah, between the teacher and the student. Yeah, the elder and the child. Got to find some common ground that they both mutually respect and share, and then work from there.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, I think celebrate what you're saying, Suhail, that you know, if you go to masjids, you will see lots of young people.
Correct.
If you go to a masjid near a university, it'll be packed with students.
Yes.
That's a good thing.
Very good thing.
Like you say, if you go to a church, you don't see that. You might see that in Judaism. I'm not sure, but certainly in churches you don't. You know, and it's when people are forced to go on a Sunday. Every other day it's empty. You can go into a masjid, you know, a fairly central masjid, and it'd be packed.
Packed, yes.
You know, I was thinking about when we went down to London, packed. When we went to Malaysia, packed. You know, if we choose to go and pray somewhere after this very podcast, it will be packed.
Yes.
And not all with old people, as you say. So this is great. This is brilliant news to begin with. But then we do think, yeah, and I would almost take it to why are people moving away from religion? Not we'll focus on Muslims, we'll focus on ourselves, but why are people moving away from religion? Why? How are comedians getting away with saying religion is, you know what I mean, making loads of jokes about it and just saying, oh, basically, if you're religious, you're stupid. I think, well, you're not stupid. You're not stupid. You're not stupid.
Ricky mantra for some time.
I was thinking along those lines, and he's not the only one.
No.
I'll give you a little example of my own son, actually, the youngest one, who's 24 now. When he was 10, 12 years of age, 13, whenever I used to get chance, I used to take him to the Jummah prayers.
Yes.
And then he used to always distracted very easily while khutbah was going on.
Yeah.
Or the waz and the sermon was going on. He used to play with his fingers, and he used to you can actually see that he is not connected. The reason why, because he's born and brought up over here.
Yeah.
His strong language in his mind is English, and the imam was talking in Urdu.
Yes.
Yeah.
So after the Jummah prayers, once twice, then I asked him, why you're not listening properly? So he told me, Dad, I don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely.
The next time I took him to an English-speaking Pakistani immigrant Maulana in that mosque. And I thought he's going to listen because now he's talking English. But guess what? He was again playing with his fingers. He was not connected. After the Jummah prayers, I asked him a bit slightly more. I said, why were you not listening? He was talking English. You know what he said? Oh, I didn't understand his English. The reason because his way of speaking was foreign for him. His language and selection of words and the phrases were completely foreign for him. His examples were completely foreign for him. So he was just sitting because I asked him to sit and listen. So he was just playing with his finger. Then I made a point, and I took him after a few weeks when I got a chance to took him from a homegrown Maulana, Imam, and for the Jummah prayers. And guess what? He was just
engrossed.
He was engrossed. He could understand everything because that man or young man, maybe about 16, 18 years of age, that Imam, was able to speak exactly what he wanted to listen.
Which is how it should be.
It should be like that. So he was able to, and then when we went home, I said, did you know, oh yeah, he was talking about this, he was talking about this, I could not understand that, and things like that. So I was really very fascinated that you have to not only speak English, you have to speak English they can understand. So, important thing which I've noticed, the big disparity. In the morning, these youngsters, they go to the school and they are encouraged to ask questions. And think out of the box and be interrogative.
Question everything.
Same evening, they go to the madrasas. They are told not to ask questions. Don't ask questions. Don't think out of the box and don't interrogate me. They get very confused.
And that's really frightening because what was one of the core reasons you moved away from Roman Catholicism?
Because I asked questions that weren't being answered.
And the response was?
Just have faith, son.
Just have faith, son.
Just have faith, son.
That is unfortunately, that's unfortunately the weapon of quite a number of religious people who say, because if they don't have the scientific answer, they'll say have faith.
Just have faith, son.
Which is fine. One should have faith, but ask questions.
But the response should be have faith whilst I go and get an answer for you.
Exactly.
Because the beauty of Islam is there's always an answer. And what's that answer backed up with?
Evidence.
And
it's backed up with evidence.
And loads of it.
The Quran and the Hadith.
You
always find evidence for any question and the answer that's given.
And things get more interesting when you have conversation.
When I was asking the priests important questions to me, they were just patting me on the head saying, have faith, son.
Okay.
That's all. So I ended up saying, well, that's not enough for me. I need answers. And it was 10 years later that I found myself in company of Muslims. And I asked them the same questions. And they gave me the answers.
Fantastic.
And they gave me the answers from a Quranic perspective and from the perspective of our beloved Prophet Muhammad.
MashaAllah.
And I understood the answers. And I got it. And I thought, wow, this is great. Why couldn't my lot have done that all those years ago? And it's that drove me and steered me towards
Islam.
Islam.
MashaAllah.
Of course, we all know it's Allah that steered me towards Islam.
Of course.
But it was through those people,
they were the
and
conduit.
through those answers. And I thank Allah every day that He put me in front of people who had first of all the knowledge, and the desire to help, and the willingness to take the questions and get the answers and bring me the answers and explain things. Because if I'd met a imam whose English is broken and he's old school and he's still thinking about his upbringing in his village back home somewhere, if I'd have encountered that Muslim, there is a chance that I would not have progressed to being Muslim.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Yes, because with the best one in the world, even the loveliest guy with that background might get a little bit frustrated at the number of questions that you would ask, as an example.
Yeah.
I know that I was
especially
a
you.
nightmare. I just asked and asked and asked. I wore people out because I wanted to gain information, and now my children do it to me, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. We'll talk till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
You don't have a chance with Zian.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
such a
Child
bright-
number 1, we will just talk and talk and talk and talk and ask question, and answer questions, and he says, "Oh, this is brilliant. This is brilliant," because if you're engaged in something, if you're interested in something, you want to talk about it.
Yes.
And when you're bored about something, you want to ignore it. And so, to be engaged, it involves it involves talking about it. And so, the more you talk, the more you learn. And the more you remember as well, which is why this is what they do at school. It's almost was it the Socrates method where you just ask questions,
yes.
and it gets them to think for themselves.
Yes.
And that's what and the Prophet, peace be upon him, said that's what you should do.
Yes.
Continue to ask questions. It states specifically in the Quran. And continue to ask questions.
And the Sahaba Ikram used to ask questions.
Of course, yeah.
They used to sit
Can you
down
imagine?
and
I
keep
think
on
I'm
asking
bad.
questions.
They must have been,
Yes.
yeah, because it
You
was
know,
all
the
new.
thing is that they asked relevant questions to them in their time. And when they started asking too deep questions and too involved, and they were getting beyond their own comprehension, our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "I'll show you what happened to the people before you that asked too many questions."
Yes.
You know, what you've got to do is get to a level where you're satisfied and content inside, and your heart is content with the faith that you have in Allah. That's the position that you need to get to. And you need the only way to get to that is to be given answers, or to read the answers for yourself, to research and get the answers for yourself to the questions that are most important to you. Yeah. Once you get to that level, everything becomes easy.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to question too much, because you just have faith that, you know, and
Yeah.
based on my understanding so far, this fits in with my understanding of my faith.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can't come to a position where you actually stop asking too many deep questions, because there's no need.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
I mean, asking question is so important.
Yeah.
Being inquisitive and asking question in the right direction, obviously, as you said, is very important, and has been encouraged not only by Nabi Kareem Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and his Sahaba Ikram, but it's written in Quran as well.
Yeah.
Allah Himself is telling to ask questions.
Yeah.
He says at least about 4 or 5 places in Quran. I don't know exactly which surah is it, but there are at least about 4 or 5 places. Afala yadabbarun al-Qur'ana. Why don't you ponder on the verses of Quran?
Yep.
Yes. Yeah.
The word tadabbur is
Tadabbur.
it has got a very vast meaning. So the closest one can think of in English translation is ponder. That's why I was fascinated, and I took this word ponder for my YouTube channel. That's Let's Ponder with Dr Suhail Anwar.
Yeah.
So I'm nothing. Obviously, I'm very humble in that sort of situation. But let's ponder together. So much so that there is a place in Quran where Allah says, "Afala yadabbarun al-Quran." Why don't you ponder on the verses of Quran? Has your mind become locked? The second verse is, "Have your mind become locked?"
Wow.
And this is a very strong phrase which Allah would say to the people. And very important thing once, Allah is not talking to the scholars. In these verses, Allah is talking to everybody.
Everybody.
Yes.
He's talking to us.
Yeah.
All of us.
Yes, it's talking to us. It's talking to you.
Yeah.
So everybody should ponder on the verses. And Allah knows whatever level of mind I have got, I'll ponder and I'll stop at that level.
Yeah.
Whatever knowledge of a PhD in Islam would have the knowledge, would ponder on that knowledge
Yes.
and then stop.
Yes.
So the pondering is important.
Yeah.
Thinking on these things, and that's why, if you don't ponder and you want to complete 2 Quran in a month of Ramadan, and you just carry on and on and on because you want to finish 2 or 3 Quran because that's a customary. Everybody does this. Then you won't ponder. And if you don't ponder, the Quran will not speak to you. It's so fascinating that the Quran actually will. We think we are speaking to Quran, we are reading Quran. No, the Quran is reading us.
Yes.
The Quran will divulge its secrets and wisdom at the level of our depthness, at the level of our intellectuality. The Quran would understand that I have to divulge more information to this man because he is pondering. That's the beauty of the verses of Quran. This is what I've noticed in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
The more you stop and read and read and read the same thing, new things would start coming out. This is what I've noticed.
You know, and also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says so many times, in these verses are signs or evidences for those who think, for those who ponder, for those who, you know, for those of understanding, for those who, you know, and we're encouraged to not just take it as written, but to think about the deeper meanings of what's actually being said.
Yeah.
And when you do start to do that, it opens up a whole new, beautiful space.
Yes.
Yeah. Incredible, where you just think, this is genius. Of course it's genius.
And it
was
is.
written by our creator.
It is. I picked my youngest up from school yesterday, and he said, he's only 10. You know what I mean? He said, Dad, you know, how was your day? What did you do? He said, I had a great day today. He said, I think I managed to convince everybody that God exists.
All right.
And I was like, wow.
Wow.
Okay. You know what I mean? What happened? They were doing RE, they were doing religious education, and within that, it was just like an open forum, and it was just like you're saying about what the teacher does, just ask a question, and then doesn't take a side, and he just said, so, you know, does God exist? That's how it started. And some children were saying, no. They were taking the, you know, the secular, if you forgive me, the Ricky Gervais, no, doesn't. And of course, child number 3 was saying, oh, absolutely God exists. And it was amazing how a 10-year-old thinks, because, you know, they gave the usual things. Well, if God exists, why is there so much suffering on the planet? Why is there so much suffering? And he's 10, and he went, well, this is just a test.
Fantastic!
This is just a test. And they went, oh, but we need this and we need this and we need this. And he went, no. What you're describing is heaven.
Okay.
You've got to earn that. He's 10. And he got it, you know what I mean? And people, there should be no bad things happening on the earth. It's like, no, the whole point is, this is a test. Yes. And if you pass it, you go through to paradise is the next thing, not this. If you had paradise here, what's the point in having a heaven? You know, and you think, he's 10 and he gets it. Yeah, that's exactly amazing. But you could see the delight in his face when he was just talking, and it was just, to him it was so obvious, if that makes sense. And I think that's the power of faith, that's the power of religion. You know, he's comfortable with bad things happening because he knows that, rather than take it personally, he knows it's just part of the test, it's just part of the overall programme. I'm sure we've had this conversation before, when you know, people will say, well, you know, if God exists, why are there so many bad things in the world? And you think, well, hang on just a second. And there was that was it. I'd seen a video on social media, and it was a chap being asked that question. And somebody went, oh, you know, and it was a Muslim guy, and somebody said to him, you know, when you get to your heaven, I hope the first question you ask is, why was there so much badness and tragedy on the earth? Why did he not stop it? Why did your God not stop it? And he went, oh, I'd be too scared to ask that question. He said, yes, I'll bet you would. He went, no, because I'd fear the response being, no, what did you do about it?
Yes, exactly.
What did you do about it? And then you start thinking, and it's like, all the good things are apparently man-made. You know, Steve Jobs invented the iPhone.
We're happy to take credit for all of them.
Yeah, all the good things. Oh, yeah, Mr. Mars, he created a great bar, didn't he? You know what I mean? But any bad things, see that tornado? That's God, that, innit? Yeah. And you think, oh, hang on a minute. You know, we know, as an example, that an awful lot of the climate change is happening because of man-made issues. Yes. Man-made issues. A lot of diseases exist, but, you know, forgive me, but there's an awful lot of people suffering because they smoked in the past, because they've eaten incorrectly, because they've not, you know what I mean? And so I'm not saying it's awful, and I don't wish that upon anybody, but to blame God for everything that's bad
We need
and
to
then
take
say that
some
everything's
ownership,
good,
don't we?
you've got to take a little bit of ownership. I think, and for the 10-year-old to do that, you think,
I think,
wow.
I think, I don't know exactly the percentage, but I would say about 50% of our disease is actually self-inflicted.
Yes.
I can imagine, yeah.
So, you know, people say so many people are dying because of hunger. I said, no, most of the people are dying because of food. Because
Wow.
they eat and they overeat, and all the diseases concerning and linked to eating
Yeah.
will give you diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, and all those sort of things.
Yeah.
If you eat a lot, needless to say, you'll probably do less exercise.
Yeah.
So eating a lot, less exercise, smoking, drinking, all
Yeah.
these things comes in the eating habit.
Yeah.
So obviously, if you calculate all and all the diseases which comes up because of these things, people die of actually eating.
Yes. Yeah.
As compared to die of hunger.
Yeah.
How many people are dying of starvation? Yes, they are
Yes, there
dying.
are.
Yes.
But the number, if you calculate, they are more.
Yeah.
But yes, you're absolutely
But
right.
even,
that,
even
you know,
those, even the guys who are suffering and dying as a result of hunger. There are people in the world who are hungry, yet there's plenty of food in the world.
Yes.
It's just that we've created it or stored it or hoarded it in the wrong places.
Yes.
That's man-made. That's man-made.
That's man-made.
You know what I
Absolutely
mean?
right.
One of the greatest things I saw on TV in the last sort of 10 years was Chernobyl. There was a program that showed what happened at Chernobyl when Chernobyl exploded, the big nuclear place. It's not in Russia, it's just outside. It's Ukraine, might be Ukraine.
Part of Ukraine.
Yeah. And it was amazing. This TV thing was amazing. But it was fascinating that and I remember, you know, having to shut all the windows at school and things. You know, and my wife and I were talking about it. She goes, I remember, because she's from Scotland, it hit them first. And they had to put paper up against the window. We remember all this. And I remember you saying, Yusuf, that that explosion, before that explosion, the cancer rates were about 50%, you know. Sorry, not 50%, you know.
1 in 5.
1 in 5,
One in
yeah, 20%.
20%.
1 in 5, 1 in 6, 1 in 7 people would have cancer in their lifetime, where now it's 1 in 3, 1 in 2, it's almost 50%. And the massive change happened as a result of things like, and I'm not saying it all comes down to, but so much.
If you ask another surgeon that we both know very well,
yes,
he'll tell you, because he specialises in thyroid and parathyroid cancers, that the spike on the graph of thyroid cancers just post Chernobyl.
Yeah.
Oh right.
was
Yes.
massive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Massive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we know
Radiation.
that caused a problem.
Yeah.
Radiation affects
Yeah.
the thyroid first and foremost.
Yeah.
So you know we know that caused problems. So again, a thing that caused massive hardships and massive numbers in terms of cancers was a man-made thing.
Yes.
A man-made disaster.
Yeah.
Yeah. God didn't build Chernobyl.
Yeah, exactly.
He
Yes.
didn't.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point.
He didn't cause it to explode through mismanagement. That was a set of Russian scientists that got it all wrong.
Yeah.
So the overall point is that why today's Muslim are drifting away from Islam as compared to few hundred years before, or maybe 1,000 years before.
Yeah.
So the answer is that obviously we have just discussed few points.
Yeah.
The change and evolution of the culture was very slow in the last 1,000 years.
Yes.
It was very slow because the movements was very slow. There were very less movements. They never used to travel to different part of the countries and things like that. They used to stay in one place. Person is born in one village, die in the same village. They marry in the same village. They have children in the same village, and the whole family is in the same village. It was completely unheard of that somebody who is born in the Middle East area would marry somebody in China.
Yeah.
It's
Or speak to them.
Or speak to them, or see them. So it was a very slow, sluggish change of culture.
Yeah.
But now we are in an era that it's a global village.
Yeah,
the whole world is very it becomes very small. So now we see each other and we change our way of thinking. Things are after the industrialization. things have become too fast. So that's the reason why if the people who are Islamic people, they don't keep up with the pace of this change in the society, they will not be able to keep up pace with the replies of their questions.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that's became a bit,
Absolutely.
we were in an era of 700, 800 AD, and then after up till about 1100, 11th century or 12th century, when the Muslims were in the top, and some of the years, about 200 or 300 years, we were in the golden age of Islam.
Absolutely.
In that golden age of Islam, if you actually see the people who were high up in the education, they were very good in Quran as well. Like you talk about Ibn Rushd or Al-Kindi, or some of the people are saying that Al-Kindi had a bit of a discussion about Quran and the science. Ibn Sina, like Avicenna in English they say. And there are a lot of these scientists have got very close relationship with Quran. But the problem appeared after a few centuries when the worldly knowledge became more and more and more. So they started drifting into the worldly knowledge, and the religious knowledge became increased as well. So they started departing. The people who were the custodian of religion, they started away, and the people who were the custodian of the worldly knowledge, medicine, mathematics, algebra, and all this, they started drifting away over the span of few hundred years. Just like when you take an exit on a motorway, you can actually see the person. Oh yeah, I can see them, but slowly it just goes away. So they didn't know initially for good few hundred years, and then they started finding themselves alienated from each other. So the people who do not understand the worldly thing started hating the worldly.
If you diverge by just 1 degree,
and then
over time,
the span
you end up
of
billions of miles apart.
Exactly.
And that's exactly
I think that is what happened, and they've got the religious people started living in their own cyst, and the worldly people, started living in their own sphere, in their own cyst, and then not talking to each other, and that's how the differences started, and that only started about 400 or 500 years actually.
Absolutely, and this access to, as you say, to information as well, because if you were in a, wherever you were in the world, if you had like if you were in a village or even in a city, if you were in that one place and you stayed in that one place, and the only people you spoke to thought like you, and they went to their religious activity, whether that was church, if it was in the UK, you know what I mean, or Madrid, it was fairly easy to stay comfortable, and you didn't have to question things so much. And then all of a sudden, as you say, as access to information has increased, I don't think we've got any necessarily more intelligent. We have more access to information. I remember hearing that in the year that A Brief History of Time was written and published by Stephen Hawking, it was the #1 book taken out of UK libraries. So in the year that A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking was put into libraries, it was the #1 book taken out of British libraries. Think, wow, that's amazing. That is knowledge. That's incredible. 10 years later, you are what you eat. The #1 book was You Are What You Eat. We've gone from researching black holes and the existence of time to, people looking at their own
diet planning.
Diet planning,
Unbelievable. And so there's just this access to information. And I say it's just in the last few hundred years. I remember hearing that the 1800s belonged to the agriculturalist, the 1900s belonged to the industrialist. The 18th century belonged to the agriculturalist, the 19th century belonged to the industrialist, the 20th century belonged to the technology people,
computers.
21st century belongs to the storyteller.
Okay, that's fascinating.
Because if you look at YouTube, TikTok, it's all now
media and
media.
story.
It's media and looking at and seeking out information, and are they getting the right information? And so for them
more often than not.
No. But for the imams not to engage in conversation, for them not to have questions and answer them is borderline criminal, because other people are giving information out. If you're not then giving the counter information or the truth, then what we're doing to our kids?
Things are going very fast actually, and the knowledge is dispersing of the knowledge to everybody is very, very fast. So the religious people should have to keep up with the knowledge as well. The same question, the answer could be different with time.
Yes.
It could be 100 years ago a question, and the answer was that, but then 100 years later, it'll be different.
Yeah.
Einstein was a professor, obviously. He set up a questions of an exam, and his assistant came to him. He said, "Professor Einstein, have you noticed that the number of questions you have selected are the same questions which you gave to the same students last year, and now this year, in the different year, you're giving the same question?" He said, "Yes, I know that." And he was walking. He kept on walking with him. "But Professor Einstein, you can't do that." He said, "Yes, I can do that." He said, "Yes, but can you explain why you're saying the same question to the same people which you gave last year, and now you gave the same question again?" He turned around to his smile and he said, "Answers are changed." In 1 year, the same physics questions, the answers were changed. In 1 year.
Yeah.
And we are expecting that over hundreds of years, the answers should be the same.
Yeah.
It is not possible sometimes.
No.
Yeah.
Some of the religious questions, yes, answer would be the same. But overall, to make a person understand who is not from the era of 500 years ago, who's in 21st century, have to have the answer which will be correlating with his mind.
Yeah.
You know, Einstein gave us, to my mind, one of the best quotes I've ever heard. And that's when he said, "The definition of insanity is to repeat the same things but expect different results."
Different results, absolutely.
You know, and that. But we're all guilty of this.
Yeah.
We all do this. We repeat the same things from the past, the things that we've learned from the past, and we just repeat those, expecting a different outcome.
Yeah.
There's never going to be a different outcome. Things won't change in that way.
Yeah. We have the same madrasa system that we had 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Yeah, so it does.
Shall I say it? Shall I say it?
Well,
Shall I say it?
It's true. We are seeing some change.
It's there to be seen. It's there to be said. But from the people that I've known for many years, their experience of madrasa is not much different to the experience that children are having today in madrasa. And that's that they're learning to read Arabic. Yeah, alif, ba, ta, sa, jim, ha, kha. They're learning the letters. They're learning to piece the letters together. They're learning through the Qaeda. They're learning how to read the Quran. But they do not learn anything of its understanding.
Correct.
And I'm sorry, the madrasa system is fundamentally flawed, if that is still the case. Children need to understand what they're saying, because otherwise it's meaningless. And it becomes like your son in the masjid playing with his nails because he doesn't understand what's going on.
Okay.
And if that's all the madrasa is churning out people who can recite with no understanding, what's the point? There are some scholars that say the point is that you get sawab for being able to recite and for being able to read the Quran in Arabic. I get that. I get that. But where does that lead you?
Yeah. But those very same scholars will then say it is our responsibility to learn Arabic. So we'll teach it in the madrasas then.
Yes.
Teach it then.
Yes.
Because, I'm struggling. I'm trying at 52. I'm trying to learn Arabic. But I'm 52. It's not at 3. Kids can pick up.
They can pick up
kids
like
are
anything.
amazing. My youngest son is teaching me Ayatul Kursi. Yeah, he's teaching me that. And I know I should know it by now. Well, I could keep saying. So he's teaching me. He's 10, and he picked it up so easily. So, yes, it is our responsibility to learn Arabic, and I'm incredibly, you know, I don't want to use the word envy. That's the wrong word. You know, I just love the fact that people can speak Arabic. I think it's amazing, and I want to be one of those people. I want to be able to read the Quran and understand it in the language that it was written. Amazing. So, let's teach our kids then.
Yes, exactly. Because obviously, we have missed the boat actually as far as the language, the depth of the language is concerned.
Yeah.
Yes, we might be able to understand a bit, but not to the depth of what.
Yeah.
But our children, yes.
Yeah.
At younger age, then yes. So there are few madrasas who are going into this direction.
Yeah, that's it. Well, we are seeing a change.
They are teaching Arabic. They are teaching the background, and they are trying to encouraging those pupils to understand Quran.
Yeah.
But you rightly said, quite a number of madrasas don't do this actually. They just pay attention more for reading and like what we call Nazra Quran. Reading, and then the qiraat, like how to recite Quran and things like that. And by the time they finish all this, those children are actually gone.
Yeah.
They go to their worldly, because they've learned the Quran, how to read the Quran, and they've finished the Quran 2-3 times.
Yeah.
And now they have to earn their own living, and for that they have to have their own degree in any other subject, arts or science or whatever. So they are left without knowing the importance of the knowledge of this. But there are, like Jamia Al-Azhar is a university of Azhar. They some of the sections in that they teach, like you said, they do that. Medina University, they do that as well. But most of them, you're right.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah.
I actually, you know, it's amazing the things that ping into my brain. I remember you yourself giving an example of that. I mean, this it has to be 15 years ago. We're at a dinner party, and you said that somebody was reciting, somebody was reading prayer, everybody else was behind them praying, and I'm sure you said that the person reciting prayer was beautiful. It was amazing.
He was a famous Qari.
Yeah.
In the UK.
And he was doing the story of
Hazrat Yusuf.
Yes.
And he put him in the well.
Put him in the well,
Yeah.
didn't get him out again.
Didn't get him out. That's because
somebody mentioned it to him, and he went,
When are you taking him back out of the well
yeah,
and have a laugh with
we
him?
got all the way up, and literally, we were listening, it was beautiful. Oh, he's in the well. Oh, and that was it.
That took place with Dr. Zakir Naik.
Yeah.
When Dr. Zakir Naik was invited in Saudi Arabia, so he went along with his people or his entourage, few people, and among them was a best Qari, a best Qari of India, one of the best Qari. And they were very fascinated that the Saudi people would wanted to sort of hear the best Qari, how they recite Quran. So he was asked that you should start the reciting Quran and lead the prayers. So that's what he did, and he recited Quran in a beautiful way. But since probably he didn't know exactly what he was reciting, I'm pretty sure he knew, but he didn't pay attention to that. So when he finished the prayers, one of the Arab person who knew what he was talking about, obviously, and he was reciting Surah Yusuf, and he said, it would have been nice if you would have taken Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam out of the well and stopped reciting after that. So when you did, you just left him in. So it was a bit of a laugh, but you're right. That gives an idea that the person, even a big scholar as well, if his mother tongue is not Arabic, then he might not stop where it should be. He just abruptly stops and things like that. Yes.
Fascinating.
And there were a lot of things happened in the past as well, which has created a big sort of space between the people of the worldly knowledge and the religious knowledge. Like I can remember that few hundred years ago when German invented the press, the first machine, and they were able to produce a mass production of what is written. And that was the time, a few hundred years ago, when there was Ottoman Empire in most of the part of Muslim world. And in the Ottoman Empire, in Istanbul, the head mufti gave the fatwa that using the press machine, printing machine, is against Islam, and it's the invent of the kuffar, and we should not be using it.
Wow.
Why? Because the calligraphers will go out of job.
Yeah.
Imagine the tunnel thinking, something. And that fatwa remained for a good couple of centuries.
Wow.
And they went behind. Look at the amount of 200 years, and there was no...
It wasn't just an Islamic fatwa. Yeah, that decision was made Europe-wide. Because the scholars at the time, the lecturers, the teachers, the people of power were saying, well, if we give all the masses all of this knowledge, what are they going to do to us? You know, and they feared their own positions. And it's in exactly the same way. So the advancement of knowledge was seen to be the work of shaitan, rather than the work of progress. You know, where would we be now without being able to read things and research things?
When if I consider my, the Christian heritage in the UK, when the Bible, I think was it the King James Bible, was the first Bible to be published in English, and that was considered heresy. You could not produce it in anything other than, was it Latin?
Latin at that time.
It had to be in Latin, which meant, and that was it was a power thing, because if it's in Latin, if I understand it and you don't, I have control over you.
Exactly.
And so the papacy could control then the whole of Europe and certainly much of the world, because they controlled the knowledge. And the moment it was put into English and anybody could read it, well, anybody that could read it, it felt like it was taking power away from the priests.
Unfortunately, the same thing is still happening in Muslim world.
Wow.
There are many places in the villages of India, Pakistan, and other places, other countries as well, where the ulama ikram says that you must not read the translation. Only read Arabic part of the Quran.
Wow.
Don't read the translation, because if you read the translation, you'll go in a wrong direction.
Wow.
You won't know. We are the one who will tell you what these meanings are. And that is not out of love and affection to those children. That is because their own control, like you said. There are not many...
they'll teach them at a price.
Yes, exactly. And there are a few things which people love. Money, fame, visibility, like nowadays very important in media, social media and all this. Power. If these things will go away, then they're not interested much. So same thing would be in any place. The same thing would be in the religious part as well. If you take away money, if you take away fame, power, all these things, they will not be much interested actually. And the control and power is very important for somebody to keep themselves in power and money. And that's what they say, that you must not read the translation, because they know that if they're going to read, there are not many ulama left now. Obviously, that we are talking about in the villages,
it's
where
a minority,
they discourage actually.
And it's a demonstration of what has happened over the last few hundred years.
Exactly, that was more. In fact, if you compare today's Islam or Ottoman Empire, when this fatwa took place of printing press, if you compare that era as compared to the golden age of Islam, 8th century, 9th century, what we know, that they were striving to get information wherever possible. They were getting information from Greeks. They were reading all the Greeks, Aristotle and Plato, on all these. They were actually translating it like mad. They were translating all the lecture, this thing, because when in Jang-e-Yarmouk, war Yarmouk, when we defeated Romans, and quite a number of areas of the Roman area, we took it, like Baghdad and Baghdad and Syria, which is Sham in Arabic, and other places as well. They were all under the domain of Romans. When it took over, they were able to take a lot of literature from them.
Yeah.
So instead of just burning those literature, this is not Islam, forget about that. Instead of doing that, they started reading it, and they were fascinated. That was very good knowledge, and the knowledge which they found was good. They translated that into Arabic.
Yeah.
Khalifa Harun Rashid, he was the Khalifa who started the House of Wisdom. He collected all the big brains from everywhere in the world, Islamic Muslims, and got together in that. They were actually paid like anything. They were paid more than what the footballers get today.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, I was reading about that, and they said, "Oh my goodness," they were because you have to pay them. If you have got brain, you have to pay them, and they were able to translate all the good information from the Greeks into the Islamic thing and amalgamated this into this. And in this 21st century, we don't do this.
It's not
No.
done.
We don't do this. It's so
translate,
sad.
hoard it.
So we were in 9th century much ahead of what we were today.
Well,
That's
I think,
amazing.
Kosa said a couple of weeks ago. In the past, we used to read to learn. Now we have trouble learning to read.
All right, fascinating, very nice.
It is a fact. It is, isn't it?
Yeah,
Crazy.
this is very. I must
Crazy.
keep in my mind actually
Yeah.
to use it somewhere else.
I'll be seeing that in your next podcast. Subhanallah. So the answer to we started talking really about people moving away from
Drifting
Islam.
away from.
I think really that we've established some of the reasons why that happens,
Yeah.
and the reasons why tend to focus around lack of understanding
Yes.
and lack of knowledge.
Mhm.
Yeah. So and also around the way that things evolve, and cultures evolve, language evolves, people's interpretations evolve, but the explanations don't,
Yeah.
and the teaching doesn't. And there's become a divide and a mismatch between the two. So what's the answer to this? How do we stop the trend? How do we stop this from growing into a bigger problem? What do you think?
Well, I think the other issue there is that people actively seek leadership, which is why advertising works so well. If we're not sure about something, we tend to look outside ourselves at what other people are doing. And if we find certain people who we maybe respect or like or want to be like, we just do what they're doing. People actively seek leadership, not necessarily leaders, but leadership. We look outside ourselves. So we're just going to make Islam cool. I think Islam's cool. My kids
So
think
do
Islam
I.
is cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Islam is cool. It's awesome. It's fascinating. It's all enveloping, and some people are just not making it cool. It's like I said, it's almost boring to some people. How can? It's like I used to say, geography teachers and history teachers were the best teachers at school. They must have been, because they took the whole of human history and the entire earth and made it boring. That takes skill. That takes skill, doesn't it? You know what I mean?
You've got to be really good at that.
You've got to be really good to do that.
To make it boring.
You know what I mean? So to take Islam and make it other than fascinating,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So it's just we've got to make it cool. We've got to allow our children to know the beauty involved. I got it was Fajr yesterday, and I just went into the bathroom to do wudu, and the window was open, and the light was coming up the sky like fingers. Do you know what I mean? It was beautiful. It was just beautiful, and it's hard for me not to look at that and think, oh God, Allah's amazing. Allah's amazing. When we first took our kids to what I would call Sunday school, it was an Islamic school, but it was on a Saturday, and it was more just it was sharing the joy of religion to kids, not just teaching them, like you say, how to read Arabic or they learnt all that as well. But my son came out, or my daughter came out on the very first day with this picture, and they coloured it in and they went, Dad, did you know Allah invented whales. You know, and they had a picture of this whale that they'd coloured in.
Okay.
You think, that's how it should be. I mean, wow, wow. This is what it should be. Not, oh, God, here we go. Oh.
I was thinking, what, the country?
Yeah, the country.
Wales,
So we made some mistakes then. You know,
yeah,
amazing.
shouldn't have bothered.
Yeah, incredible. So we've got to make it cool. But forgive me, I spoke on the topic. I do apologise. I think you were going to speak yourself, Sal.
No, you're absolutely right. It was a very good example actually you gave, and I'll echo that same. And my answer would be that Allah has given the same answer in Quran, which I've just recited a few minutes ago. That afala yatadabbarun Quran, why don't you ponder on my verses? So if we ponder on the verses with open mind, we can bridge the gaps between the modernity and the Islam, because the Quran, the verses can speak to you and will tell you a lot of information which some people, if you just read it and don't understand at all, especially the worldly things. I'm not talking about the religious thing, obviously, because the whole Quran is not completely religious. And there are a lot of worldly things in the Quran as well.
So true.
How to live your life, warfare, and how
we
to
always say
inheritance.
if only there was a rule book for life.
Yes.
Yeah.
There is. It's called the Quran.
Yeah, exactly. So if you read that, and every time when you read that, you'll have different information coming out of the Quran, and obviously we will bridge the gap in this way.
But read with understanding.
Yeah, read with understanding.
Great to recite, and but by no means are we saying don't recite. Just in Arabic, also read with understanding.
Exactly.
Just get your head around it. It's cool.
Yeah.
So I think a step forward, certainly in this country, would be to use homegrown talent.
Yes.
People who are born here share the same cultural references, share the same personalities, the same way of talking. There's certainly the language of younger people. We should be using homegrown talent.
Exactly.
As Islamically educated, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
But in the mosques and madrasas, I'm seeing that more and more.
Yeah.
And there's a shift towards that.
Yes.
And it's a good thing that shift is taking
If you
place.
look at who's really popular on social media, it tends to be in certain countries. It's people that were born in that country with the ability to speak that language and give examples that are relevant to today.
Yes.
And they're massive.
Yeah.
Because people go, I can identify with that.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
This is Islam in a 21st century context.
Yeah.
I think with time it's improving, and it's very good. And homegrown youngsters are coming up, and they are talking about Islam. They are in the imams in the masjid as well, and they talk the same language which the children who are born and brought up over here, and they can have the same language as well. So it's very good, and they are bridging the gap. Yes. But some of it all depends. So we'll have to think about the overall thinking or of the curriculum of the madrasas as well, because now they are homegrown. They speak the same language. The style is the same, but the amount, the type of information which is put in their brains have to change a bit. They have to think out of the box as well. But sometimes they don't. They are homegrown, but they are not being designed or teach. It's taught to change and to think out of the box.
Yeah.
Because if they do, they're the professors or scholars, they say no, that's fine. Calm down.
Calm down.
Calm down.
Easy,
That's what.
tiger.
As ever, it's an enormous subject. I'm not sure that we can do it justice in just an hour, but we've had a fair.
We've had a go.
So,
We've had a go.
Yeah. For now, I want to say thank you again to our esteemed guest. We're so grateful for you
so
coming
much
along.
for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope I was able to discuss and tell my feelings.
Alhamdulillah.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so it just remains for me to say Assalamu alaikum
Wa rahmatullahi
wa barakatuh.
Wa barakatuh.
We'll see you all
Assalamu
later,
alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
inshallah,
barakatuh.
next time.
Inshallah.
Between now and then, do stay safe, and we'll see you on the flip side. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.